Hi guys, I'm Aditya and I've been riding a Benelli TNT600i for 2 months now, and I'm gonna give you an opinion about the ownership, or I'm just gonna express my ownership experience in this video. Okay, so take a closer look at the motorcycle. Okay, so for starters, the motorcycle is really old. I understand that. There is no point of telling you more about this motorcycle because it's not only outdated but it is out of production as well. So Benelli does not really make the 600i anymore, or nor its adventure touring sibling, the GT600, I believe, and it has been off sale since 2017 when the motorcycle did not comply to the BS4 norm. I know this is not the right setting to test this kind of a street naked motorcycle, but I needed some isolated place, so I just got it somewhere out here. It's a pretty beautiful location. But yeah, that's the whole point. Is I just wanted some isolation with this motorcycle to understand what this is all about. Okay, just to give you a quick run through, this is a 2015 model. This belongs to my friend, and I've borrowed it for some time, and it has aged. If you can see, it's not very well clean because I've been riding it in the rain, and it is missing a panel over here, so please don't mind that. Other than that, the motorcycle is in the perfect condition. It has completely functional engine, everything is proper. It's got new Timson tires, which I'm gonna tell you later on if they're good or if they're bad or not. It's got an Arrow exhaust from the factory, so that is a very good addition for something like this. Other than that, it's got spools, bobbins, frame slider, and yeah, pretty much the motorcycle is stock. Okay, most of the people buy this motorcycle for one and only one thing. It's the inline 4-cylinder Harp Symphony. It is a very melodious sound, especially when this motorcycle is equipped with an Arrow exhaust. But there is a lot more in this motorcycle that's going on over the inline 4 sound that it produces. It is really, it used to pack a lot of equipment, considering it is a 6 or a 7-year-old motorcycle. Okay, so when I say well equipped, allow me to explain that. It gets an inline 4-cylinder for something around 7 lakh rupees back then, 2015 or 14. So that was something really nice for that price. Upside down forks, a dual disc setup, a monoshock at the back. I think these are standard by today's, these are standard norms. But something that I really appreciate about this motorcycle is this very aesthetically charming swing arm. I especially love how very nicely molded this is. So that's something really nice. The engine is, it's an inline 4-cylinder, so it sort of protrudes outside the chassis. But this trellis frame, the red color on it, especially the Italian flag, that's something really a good attention to detail, I would say. So that's nice. A split seat, undertail exhaust, that was something amazing, I would say. Even if you go for the stock motorcycle, you did get undertail exhaust. So this is Arrow, like I've mentioned once or twice in the video already. So that is nice. But other than that, a very retro instrument cluster. It only has a very nice tach. This has let's see, this has speedometer and everything else. This is something really nice. If you observed, when you turn on the motorcycle, it says 600, and that's something a good attention to detail. It gets parking light, hazard lights, I'm so sorry, hazard lights. And also this motorcycle dates back to the time when you could turn off your headlamps. It has a headlight switch. That is something that's a novelty in today's day and age. Another thing that really surprised me is the mirror. The mirror is actually very useful. It is not so useful in the bumper to bumper traffic where the subject or the cars behind you or people behind you are very close to you. But when you go out on the highway, this design sort of makes sense. It does give you a good view of what's behind you. More than that, it is very ergonomically right. You don't have to adjust yourself so much to see what's behind. Okay, let's talk about its engine right now. I am really charmed by this engine because this is heavily derived from the old Yamaha R6. I don't know if it is derived or if it is the exact same engine design, but yes, it is heavily based on a Japanese engine. The beautiful thing about this motorcycle is there is nothing Japanesey about the Benelli TNT600i. It suffices or blends into a European motorcycle so well that you will not even think for a minute that there is any Japanese hint on this motorcycle. Especially the fact that it is an Italian motorcycle, so the styling, the bulk, the way it rides, it's all set to the European standards. I wouldn't consider them as benchmark standards, but definitely they are strongly impressive. Sorry, it started raining, but I'm anyway gonna complete this vlog because I have to return this motorcycle soon. So continuing, I was gonna tell you about the engine. I particularly like how this engine is a very high revving engine. Naturally it is a 16,000 RPM engine, but in this motorcycle it is limited to 12,500. However, it has a very nice mid-range drive, considering that this is actually a super sport engine derived or borrowed from the Yamaha R6. So considering that, this actually has a very impressive mid-range drive and surprisingly equally impressive top-end drive. I think that is all down to the gear ratio. The way they have tweaked the gear ratio of this motorcycle, it's quite usable in all sorts of condition, literally all. Okay, elaborating more on the gear ratio, I've been riding this motorcycle in the city, on the highways, and it has sort of pleasantly surprised me in ways that I wasn't really expecting. Because as I said, it is a very high revving engine, so you can literally do up to 82 kilometers per hour in the first gear. Second gear goes up to somewhere close to 130. That's not the thing, that is the case with most of the super bikes. But this motorcycle has a very torquey 5th and the 6th gear. Let me explain. So when I say it really has a very torquey 5th and the 6th gear, it basically means that I was able to do 100 kilometers in the 6th gear and still gas it from that point up to say 160, 170 kilometers per hour. So that's a very, very well laid gear ratio, because it sort of does not make me shift down to a lower gear for acceleration, and then it is a very high revving engine, so it goes all the way up to a very strong or a very fast pace, up to 180 kilometers per hour, somewhere there. I did manage to clock close to 200 kilometers per hour in this motorcycle. I think it is somewhere close to 198 kilometers per hour. So this is a fast motorcycle. Okay, it is relatively quick considering that this weighs more than 200 kilos. So given that fact, it can accelerate or catch pace very soon. That is a case with a high revving engine and a very well laid gear ratio gearbox. So Benelli has done their homework, and that is really, really nice with this motorcycle. Okay, now that I have told you what I really love about this motorcycle, there are things that I hate about this motorcycle. Like I said earlier in this video, that there is an undertail exhaust, okay, but that comes in the way of comfortable riding. It cannot really let you ride comfortably as other motorcycles in the segment would, because the engine does heat up, and with that the whole tail section heats up to an extent that it sort of throws heat on you from the back as well. There is heat coming out from the engine on both the shins, on both your knees, and then your back also does catch a lot of heat because of this undertail exhaust. That is the case in bumper to bumper city riding, and when you're gassing the hell out of this motorcycle on the highways, it would still do the same thing. So you really have to ride it in a very pleasant manner, say up to 120, 130 or 140 kilometers per hour. If you try passing that or gushing that, it is gonna end up hot, just plain hot. It doesn't really get warm. It gets to a temperature that sort of concerns you to an extent. Okay, now coming to its engine heat management. Honest to God, it is not the best. I think Benelli could have done a better job, because even if it is a bulky, heavy, wide motorcycle, you can still use it every day. The dimensions are not that imposing on you, but the heat that comes out of the engine, it is a little bit concerning. It does get hot, and you would want to give up on this motorcycle and just take some stop or something. It does heat up to that level. Other than that, I would say it's quite a joyful engine. It wants to rev high, it wants to deliver the power. It is there is a sufficient amount of engine braking as well. Okay, it is not harsh. That is because it has very widespread gear ratios. So considering those things, there is a nice drivetrain balance that goes on into this motorcycle. Okay, the ride quality of this motorcycle is a big question. It is absolutely plain bad. There is no sense of comfort. You are seated very comfortably as a rider, but the suspension, it sort of doesn't do its absorbing job as well as the Indian roads would demand. I think this would be a good fit out on the highways, and yes, I did enjoy this ride quality out on the highways. It was very well planted, but there is room for improvement. And so I mean, they have definitely improved it with the Leon 500 that I also have ridden a lot. So the Leon 500 is quite a spiritual successor for this motorcycle, because the 600 doesn't exist, but the 500 does exist now. Of course, it doesn't really fit in the same segment, but like I said, it is an exact spiritual successor of this motorcycle. So that does have a very impressive or a very pliant ride quality, and this is the bang opposite of it. And pillion, I think you are just very well set if you are alone. Do not bother getting a pillion, because first of all, they're gonna get thrashed constantly, up and down, up and down, up and down, and the heat from the exhaust, yeah, that is something. But I think everything is forgiven because the way this arrow sounds is mind-blowing. Okay, so let me talk a little bit about handling. Okay, I think I'm gonna include the braking parameter also in this section, because this motorcycle does have a very unforgiving handling. You are constantly supposed to be in control of the motorcycle. You cannot make any mistakes, because it's, like I said, it's over 200 kilos or something. Okay, I don't really know exact number, but it is a heavy motorcycle, and the weight is not the problem. I have ridden motorcycles which are really heavy, but the weight management is amazing. That's not the case. I'm afraid that's not the case with this one, because the center of gravity, you see, this is actually a super sport engine, but it's kind of lifted up to mount in this straight naked chassis. I am assuming to give them ground clearance or so. Yeah, that does make it a more usable motorcycle, but the ground clearance is useless because there is no handling. Like, this motorcycle does not really want to fall into the corner, and when it does, you have to wrestle with it to get it back up, because the motorcycle does not want to get back up, because the power that you use from the engine to bring up the motorcycle to the center point, that comes in a lot late. So you have to constantly be whacking or whipping the motorcycle to have a perfectly handling motorcycle. You cannot be you as a rider cannot be lethargic on this motorcycle, because the handling of this motorcycle is very, very lazy. The motorcycle does not want to turn, and if it does turn, it doesn't want to go back to the same original direction that you intended it to go. It's funny, but it's Italian. I don't know, man. I don't know why is there such an imbalance. It is just unexplained, but it has a lot to do with the fact that the engine is the center of gravity is quite high. The engine is mounted in a trellis frame. It's not really a thorough trellis frame. Engine is a stress member in this, so it's a modular chassis to say, but it doesn't really work well. And given the fact that it has an overly stiff suspension setup, it is not comfortable also while you do the same things with this motorcycle as you would do with other motorcycles. It's quite it's a downer for this. Nothing to say. But the straight lines, oh my goodness, this motorcycle wants to just go fast. Okay, but this motorcycle does have one thing, that is presence. The presence of this Benelli 600i is something else. Even if you leave it in any unorganized parking, nobody's gonna come close to you, nobody's gonna park next to you. People are gonna check out your motorcycle, people are gonna come and ask you about this motorcycle. It has happened with me today twice, so I can testify that it is a head turner, and that is because of the looks and the complementing exhaust note. And by the way, by the end of the video there will be an exhaust note, so stay tuned. If you watch till here, just just a little more. Okay, the overall quality of this motorcycle is not acceptable. It was roughly 7 lakh rupees, I think, when it was launched. For 7 lakh rupees, it was premium. It was not expensive. It was definitely premium. But like I said, see, the panel is missing out here. There's supposed to be a panel. There is plastic that is fading. Of course, it has been 6 years. There is oxidation on this levers. The rubber bushes are cracking. Also, I had to spend roughly around 10,000 rupees on the fuel pump that got busted. So it does suffer from quality issues, that is there. But Benelli does source you parts. Like recently, I had to get a fuel pump, like I said. It was not really a tough job. It was just I had to contact the Benelli service center somewhere in Mumbai, and the part was sourced to me. Okay, so this is an old motorcycle. You cannot buy it new, but you can get this in the used motorcycle market, and that is the whole point of this video. Should you buy this as a used motorcycle just because it has a very nice sounding engine, or it has a lot of good presence? So the answer to that question is no. You should not buy this motorcycle in the used market. Why should you not buy this motorcycle in the used market? Is because it's outdated, and the price people will ask for this is just high. I think it will go somewhere between 3.5 lakh rupees, and you do get amazing motorcycles in today's market for that price. For starters, you get the Royal Enfield Interceptor and the Continental GT650. The whole range is available to you for that price. You get KTMs, you get BMWs, the 300cc BMWs, and that is something that will turn more heads than this, because it's new, it's more value for money, and it's a more manageable motorcycle or a more manageable package. The BMW G310R or the GS, if you take the GS 310, I think you can come to places like these a lot easier. Like, you don't have to take much trouble that I had to go through just to film this video. Yeah, I mean, this motorcycle doesn't really make a case even in the used market, is because the parts are not, so let me put it out there, the parts are not so expensive like the Kawasaki would demand. You do get local quality parts for this motorcycle. I'm not gonna suggest you that you should go for local quality or something. It is your call, because it is your motorcycle, it is your money. But maintaining this is relatively easy. It is not fuel efficient. So I'm getting a fuel efficiency of 15, 18, at the best 20. So other than that, this is not a strong case unless and until you are looking for a lifestyle vehicle in the used market. So if that is the case, I think then this becomes a good buy to you. Other than that, I do not think so. It makes a strong case for itself. So this is my opinion about the Benelli TNT600i. I have been using this for the past 2 months now, and if there is any Benelli TNT600i owner watching this video, please let me know if my judgment over this motorcycle is correct or not, because I've been only using it for the past 2 months. If there are people who have been using it for a longer period of time, I think you can correct me in the comments, because I may have missed out on a few things. So that will be very helpful to me and people watching this video as well. So thank you for watching, guys, and now I'm gonna put the exhaust note video of this motorcycle. That is, I think, the main reason people would watch this video. So here is how the arrow sounds.